Hey friends, it's Alex from Vulture Culture and welcome to Fundamentals of EQ. Today we're going to be looking at how to mix kick, snare, and bass tracks together using notching EQ so that we can find a happy place for all of them. Before we get started, please like this video if you find it helpful and subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of the Fundamentals of EQ tutorial. And I'm going to be using Re-EQ, which is Reaper's stock EQ, but you could use whatever EQ plugin you'd like. So let's get started. So first, let's listen to what we have so far. This is the song Black and Gray by my group Vulture Culture. So right off the bat, we can hear that the kick, bass, and snare are not working very well together. So let's listen to just those three elements. So right now, the bass line is sort of dominating the sub-region. The kick has a lot of thud to it in the low mid-range, but it's actually kind of not that deep sounding. And the snare just sounds really thin. So we're going to be using a technique called notching. And we're not going to be using notch filters, as that's way too dramatic, but we can use just a parametric band EQ and bring out some of the frequencies that we want, and then emphasize those same frequencies in the other tracks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up one track at 50 hertz, then I'm going to set up another track, and I'm going to set it for 100 hertz. By the way, if you didn't know this, every octave is double the number before. So a note at 50 hertz is an octave up at 100, and at 200 it's 2 octaves up. And at 200 we're going to have another one. So now we have three bands set up at 100, 50, and 200. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this over onto the snare track, and I'm going to copy this over onto the bassline track. All right. Now, what I want to do is listen back, and I want to adjust these. So, I want the kick to live around the 50 hertz region. I want the bass line to live around 100 hertz. And I want the snare to hit around 200. So 50 is like the sub-bass region of a mix. This is the really like shake your bones region of bass. The 100 region is much more punchy, and the 200 region is kind of the top end of what you would call bass frequencies, and it's very kick your teeth in. So I want to get the kick drum to really hang out more in the 50 region, whereas right now it's kind of low-mid sounding. I want the bass line to be a little higher up at around 100 hertz, and I want the snare drum to hit around 200 because that's the natural resonance of the snares, usually around 200, 150, 300, somewhere in that range. So starting with the kick drum, I'm going to cut two notches into the kick drum at 200 and 100. But it sounds a little weak right now, so I'm going to actually use a low shelf and boost in some sub bass back into it. There we go. So now it's a lot less thuddy and it's got a lot more bottom end to it. So now I'm going to go into the snare. And on the snare, I'm going to filter out some of this low end. I'm going to use a low shelf and actually just drag it to become a high-pass filter, because I don't want any of this extra low end here. So I'm going to remove, I might drop this down to like, what is this, around 60 or so. Then I'm going to use this, and at 100, which is where I want the bass line to live, I'm going to scoop out 5. But around 200, I want to bang in 5 decibels of gain. There we go, so you can see it. Now it's got that thud in that region. And now this bass line. So I'm going to drop this to a low shelf, and I'm also going to filter out some low end on this. So it's not too boomy down low. I don't need a lot, but just I want to get some coming out here. Maybe something like that. Now at 100, that's where I want to boost. All right, right, so that's sounding a little better. But this region's getting a little congested, so I want to suck out 5 decibels there. Right? So now it's really living in that region, and I have room for the snare here, and I have room for the kick drum here. And same deal here, I've scooped out a lot of this low information I don't need on the snare, but I've really given it a space to live. And the kick drum has both of those regions notched out of it, because we don't need that, but it's got the sub bass added back in. So this is a great way to use complementary EQ to actually make your mix work a lot better. And if I unmute these tracks here, let's listen to it in the mix without any EQ. Right now the kick is just overwhelming that low mid region, and the snare sounds really weak. And the sub bass is dominated mostly by the bass line. So now that kick is sitting really well in the mix, it's not overwhelming everything. The snare has impact, and the bass line has a nice sort of area to live in that's not obscuring the sub bass of the kick drum. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like the video if you found it helpful, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see all of the fundamentals of EQ tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video.